Three, two, one. Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome along to a Mindful Leadership podcast. As always, my co-host Natasha Rocha is with me. Hello, Natasha. And hello to our special guest today, Mario Bekes. Thank you so much for joining us from Australia. So it's late your time and morning our time in Scotland, but thank you for coming along, Mario.
Thank you, John. Thank you,
Um,
Natasha, for having me.
And Mario sent on very kindly a brief bio, so I'll introduce that and then also ask you to expand on that a bit further, Mario.
Mm.
So I have from you, Mario, your current role as a managing director. Um, in your bio, you've said that you're the hero that you never knew you needed, a Guinness World Record holder in 2023, an ambassador and activist for humanity, and in war, it spent 1,800 consecutive combat days fighting for democracy and freedom. You're an experienced military intelligence and diplomatic security intelligence operative and have a successful business. You're the owner of a business of two private if I can say the word, investigative, I can't say the word, risk management companies in Sydney, Australia, and also bestseller author and academic. And your topics you'd mentioned, and you can feel free to discuss really any topic. But I love that one of the topics that you'd spoken about was both in your line of work of investigations, fraud, and espionage, and hacking the
Mm.
human brain for social engineering. You also speak about how to deal with fear and the purpose behind like the most important element for success. So thank you. I got most of the words pronounced.
It looks like it was harder for you to list all of this than write for me in English because English is my fifth language. You know what I mean, so I needed to learn a lot. And I mean, lucky my son is Aussie, Aussie, oi, oi, oi. So by the time he started going to school, I was, following him. Teach me English, and he couldn't understand. I was like, it's my father doesn't understand nothing. Or so. Thank you, John. Thank you, Natasha, for having me on your podcast. And yeah, look, my life is very, very straightforward. I'm the child of communism. I was born in a beautiful country then called Yugoslavia, and everybody was the brothers and sisters till sometimes 1990 when I was drawn into that sort of environment of being young revolutionary. So what happened? Yugoslavia was falling apart. Croatia was declaring democracy, and it was a time for the settling the scores. I will call this. So on the 14th of July 1991, I always said to people, "Be careful what you wish for." Honestly, I don't know how this works. I always want to be soldier, so I went to military school before that, and I was supposed to be the officer in Yugoslav Federal Army, but then I was sort of like a subversive methods going towards Croatian independence. So on the 14th of July 1991, the war broke out. I was wake up on I think 8 o'clock in the morning, and somebody was banging on my door, and there was a military police and said like, "Hello," and I said like, "Yes, hello," and they told me report to army barracks. So I have a choice, fighting for democracy, for independence of my country, or fight for the Yugoslavia, which I was preparing most of my life to be the part of that military. In the meantime, as I was walking back to the kitchen, I found the paper on my kitchen desk. My parents left a message, "We are okay." And I said, like, what does that mean? And a few hours later, I was in Ministry of Interior of Republic of Croatia, which was it was a nucleus of the first armed forces. So like I was decided to fight for democracy and McDonald's and Coke and all these things, which whatever was that for me was meaning of democracy. And that's how I started.
Wow. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
That's it. As you describe these life changing events
Mm.
um, and country changing events, it brings back memories for me, but also um, it helps me remember why a lot of these decisions are so important in our lives and deciding like what you fight for, like where you put your energy. Um, And your journey. So can you expand a bit more on your life and as you continued on through the military into your move into to Australia as well?
Yeah, look, as I said, like, I've become a soldier, then I become NCO, become the officer, very young. Leadership was something what was, we had this vertical of the four, the type of leadership and the success, because everything was a struggle for us. So we need to, like number one, it was a, relationship to the flag and the country, to the president leadership, then to the cause, and then to the civilian population. So like those four elements was being um, most important for us to be fulfilled by every and each combatant, because we were losing war, definitely losing war by end of 1991. I had enough after 6 months. I really had enough. I just want to die. Literally, I want to die because we were losing. We are in the midwinter in the summer uniforms. But then something happened. A miracle happened, and Croatia has been recognized on the 15th of January 92. UN comes, and there was a like sort of standby, shooting when necessary, like for a couple of months, and but the war was going for 5 years, and then eventually, as I was very young, I I knew that society, like when you're born in society, I was born in Croatia, is by education, by default, if your parents are somebody representing a society, that's, as I said, doctors, you're going to go forward in hierarchy of society. If your parents are workers like my one, that your place in society doesn't matter what you do or what you achieve. You're gonna never gonna be a leader, the manager. You're gonna be just a worker. And I didn't saw my parents for 3 years, and eventually everything comes to the end. The war comes to the end, 96, and I was looking to get out of this. I want to married. I want to have the kids. I was 25 years old. My father just passed away. And then, I said to myself, I just want to be the spy. That's a good life. The girls, the martini, 007 lifestyle. Um, but because, you know, I was very young, I was very perspective for the government. So I was I was a tip of the spear for military. But somehow, like I was always being dragged into some type of this dark cells of the society, the spies and the intelligence, and I never understood why. I was thinking that's a good thing, but actually it was a bad thing, because I was a single man without kids, and you are um, expendable. On 96, I was in coffee shop with a good friend of mine. It's like in the movies, and it comes this beautiful blonde lady with the four guys in the black, like a movie Man in Black, and she drops me envelope on a table, and she says to me, Monday, 7 o'clock, and I say, "Do you know who I am?" And she says, "I know who you are." It's like, it was a standoff. And then I opened the envelope, and that was invitation for me to join to then that was called Directorate 7, Sector 7 of Foreign Intelligence. Um, and my part was being sort of concealed into big bubble of lies. I lied to everybody in military what I'm doing, that I prepare myself to the transition into the foreign affairs. Everything was being prepared for me in secrecy, like that. One day when I cross from Department of Defense to Foreign Affairs, I'm gonna go overseas. And eventually, 98, 30th of May 98, I was transferred to Foreign Affairs. 6 months later, I was on a plane to Australia, to Croatian Embassy in Canberra. And I can say I was the head of intelligence security for Croatian government. That was my job for 5 years.
That's
That's
so
my trip.
That's so impressive. Thank you so much for sharing
You're welcome.
a lot of that. There's two things I want to ask. One
Yes,
is,
please.
I love that you wrote that you're the hero that you never thought you needed.
Mm.
So I want to explore a little bit more about that. And then the other aspect of it is, how did you work through mentally in that aspect? And I'm sure that obviously prepare you for that in
Mm.
being a spy, in suppressing that fear and having that cool, calm, kind of like what space do you go into to be able to move forward in a situation where it could be quite fearful? Because I think it could help in the sense of, how do we move past our fears into what we want on the other side? So those are the two questions so far that I have for you that I'd love for you to share more about.
First of all, when I was being on an airplane for Australia, I never fly in my life. First of all, that was the most frightening experience. Like, I was holding everybody's hands. I was just like, let's go land. 36 hours flight to Australia, 98 was quite long, and people still smoke on the plane. That was a unusual feeling. Um, I remember my boss told me before I left, it was the head of counterintelligence. He says, you going in a country which is an island nation, they're monitoring everything coming in and out. On the surface, we're all friends, but there's nobody can hold your hand. This is your list of the tasks. This is how we're going to communicate. And, usually was a difference. Not like today, like send the text, emails. Everything was, I need to sit on plane and go in Singapore in hotel for the meeting for one day. So, but fear, I learned one thing about fear. Fear, it's real. I think with people should not ignore the fact that we are wired by the birth. The fear, it's a part of our life. It's preventing us of being harmed, being injured, ourselves or somebody else. However, fear, it is a part of imagination. When I was being many trainings sent by my government in Croatia and outside Croatia, the fear was the thing. Nobody want to talk about this because fear doesn't exist. What was the most severe training was how to tolerate the pain, because that was something you can't say I'm imagining pain, because they're doing the things to you like you can't even imagine. And the military invented so many things, even today, how to cause the pain, to candidates to crush his will to survival. So I say always people, if you're afraid, it's okay. Being afraid, I'm afraid even today. I'm afraid year ago to stand and sit or turn the camera on because I was thinking people gonna just laugh to me because of my English, whatever it is. But you need to fight the fear. You need to fight the fear, and because that's our only imaginary obstacle between success or failure. I was dealing with my son for 12 years. He's epilepsy, and every time you go in the hospital, they give you those these X-rays and everything, and every time it's just that fear and stomach and everything else. So I need to calm everybody, including his mother and his grandmother. Don't be afraid. Everything's gonna be okay. Try to think always positive. So you need to know what do you want in your life and how you're gonna come to your goals. So it's not just important for me was why I'm doing these things. I knew it, our nationalism, patriotism, belonging to the cause, belonging to the state, the flag, the honor and all these things. But once when you come in an environment you don't know, you need to know how we're going to implement the tools of your success, modus operandi, to reach your next step. And Australia for me was a frightening because I knew it. I'm in a country which is not mine, in environment I don't understand, language I couldn't understand properly because at that stage I was speaking perfectly Russian and German and Croatian. English I learned it as I go. But as like, if you know what is your objective, your key objective, what is your goal, then you need to work on how we're going to reach objective. So that's how my training was going through this. So there is no reason to be afraid because I know I need to reach my objective on most possible legal way, or gray avenues. Sometimes you're working on a thread, and sometimes the line being blurred, because sometimes they don't expect from you nothing then to reach the goal. So improvising, adjusting, adapting, it was most important thing it is to reach the goals.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Natasha.
Yeah, that's quite impressive. Not being anywhere near any kind of fearful situations as you have, but growing up in South Africa in, especially during the changes of apartheid and kind of like being in town and things like that, also facing a few kind of sticky situations, like again, nothing like you, that fear within. And I don't know, but somehow something just always seems to open up that opportunity, there's a clarity that I tend to find within it, that we end up just kind of like reacting in that moment or responding in that moment. And I wonder if have you ever felt, just because we're coming from a spiritual side of things as well,
Yes, please.
felt anything from a spiritual or an energy like bigger than you supporting you through these moments as well?
Well, I can divide my life on the three parts. One is like when you're a kid and you don't care nothing. I mean, you're just careless. You just do whatever you do, however you do. And growing up in communism, you learn to imagine things. But then I become the altar boy. Um, and somehow I start loving this feeling that, there's something greater than just us, the God and everything else. And a party, I always get all these cookies from the priests and everything else. So that was a good thing. However, I reached in my life both some dark moments. Was several of them. 2009 GFC happened, and my wife then, and my son and I, we lost everything. Literally, we lost the jobs, lost the home. Continuous fighting over the money, which was the biggest hurdle, caused my son to develop epilepsy. So I blame myself, and I realized that I lost everything in family. I need to do something with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing it is that, I was being told about law of attraction, everything else. And trust me, Natasha, I was the guy who would make a fun of everybody, thinking positive. Come on, like all this. But then something miraculously happened. I was having coffee, and for the very first time, I walked in a library in Australia, and I found this book called. It just literally appeared in front of me. Well, not literally, but let's go call this metaphor literally. It's called "You Can Do It," and there's also a writer called Paul Hanna, and he talks about a movie Field of Dreams, if I may say, when Kevin Costner, the ghost comes and say, "If you build, they will come." And I was like, come on, seriously, you know what I mean? But that book stuck with me for some time. And in my dark moments, I was living in my friend garage. He gave me a nighttime job as a CCTV operator. I started writing book, and I say, now it's time to start my business. And that was the moment when I realized that only I can change things on better, because I make it fun of everybody, anybody, and misery loves company, attracted bad people. So I said to myself, I need to change. I need to start believing differently. So even today, in the morning, I wake up. My son is not 22 years old. So when he's there in his room, I say, today it's going to be a good day. And he says, why, you are psychic? I mean, how do you know? I said, I choose to believe. And he says, stop it, daddy. So we having this discussion. But yeah, I truly believe that there's an energy, and I think that everything's happen for the reason. I think that everybody meet people for the reason. And somehow I think that, as you said, the path, it's unfold in front of us when we least expect it, but it's there for us. We need to discover.
And I'd love to ask about fear and like I feel like I could talk on the subject for hours. I'd love your insights, Mario, into some of the kind of anti-patterns, like the negative behaviors that you witnessed in yourself and others throughout your life so far, where they're in a fear state, the sorts of examples of where, because fear can lead us down so many paths that are, like you were saying, misery attracts misery. I'm really interested in some of your experiences with fear.
Look, as I said, in a war, I was living fear 24/7. Thank God there was no mobile phones then, because they will capture everything. I have a couple of pictures from the war, and all these pictures, like we all standing, together, smiling and portraying. But nobody sees that there's a lie between the images, right? Remember old albums and the pictures. People always with the family. Oh, look at me. But there's a lie between this, and I live the fear most of my life. Even today, sometimes I catch myself. So like in a war during the night, that was my moments when I was most afraid. And I just give you an example. Like I mean, I fall asleep in the kitchen, some house, and I have this teddy bear under my head. The some some kid left there. And I remember I wake up in the morning, I just open my eyes. I saw the shadow, I mean, comes with a knife, I mean. So like I start screaming and I'm like a little girl, like, and everybody's like, what is wrong with you? What's wrong with you? It's like someone's come to kill me. I mean, that guy says like, no, just try to cut the bread, I mean, like there was me, shadow on the wall. And
Mhm.
my heart was going into the hill, from the fear. So fear is not something you should ignore. Nobody can teach you how to deal with the fear. Nobody. Look, I say honestly, in military, nobody teaches you how to deal with this. You know what I mean? You're doing the compartments of your life. One of them it is that you do repetition. Repetition make it permanent. That means that you're going to understand and remember the things what you should not. I was afraid I'm going to die a few years, no, 2009, when I lost a job and lost a family and everything else. I was afraid how I gonna wake up in the morning and sleep in the park. That was something worse than the war because I realized that I have nothing to lean on back. I mean, I have nothing in my life. Everything what I believe it doesn't exist. The people who I wanted to be in my life they turned it back, and I understand now why because people don't want to be associate themselves with a somebody who is always dark, pessimistic, and I mean negative and doesn't matter how much people try to help you, always that fear is run over you. And you're doing mistakes. You're doing the wrong choices, bringing wrong people, doing the wrong things, and you're digging deeper and deeper and deeper. So,
Mhm.
answering your question, I was afraid almost all my life. And the only time when I realized that I should stop being afraid, it wasn't the war, it wasn't the military, it wasn't when I was a spy. It was when I lost everything, that I need to embrace something else. And that is believe in myself. So there's numerous I wrote the books about my experiences in the war. And when I hear somebody says, fear it's for the weak people, it's a rubbish. I mean, I hate these things, these alpha males, I mean. I saw in the war these alpha males, they're holding mommy hands, they run away, they're ordinary. Average Joe was there with me, right? So fear, yes, it's okay, but you need to learn how to control because when you learn how to control fear, you learn how to control situation. And when you learn how to control situation, you are the leader. People always gonna see you with your eyes like this. Who is the strongest amongst us? And for me, I was always stupidest, and then people think that I was the bravest. I wasn't bravest. I was the scariest guy. But they say, "Oh, Mari's gonna do this for us." It's like, no, no. I'm 19 years old dude who just just I was in a war by accident, but it's happened to me. So fear, it's real. You need to learn how to control. But I said, like, I let fear to overwhelm me most of my life till I didn't learn how to deal with this.
Mhm.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and
You're welcome.
I feel that in my life when I've tried to suppress fear or to bypass it, um, it just comes back, and it's almost like I don't know if I was suppressing my fear to achieve a goal, like in my corporate job, I would it would manifest often right after. It was like right after the thing I'd done. It's like, I celebration, I've launched this new product, it's fantastic. And then this feeling would come up, and it didn't matter like whether I had created a success for my customer and my team and my company. It was me inside. I'd feel like, and am I going to lose my job now? Was that all worth it? And suddenly, and all these, all I've done is suppress those feelings temporarily. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Field of Dreams, and it does resonate with me as well because it's like it's so counter to the temptation of fear, where I love that you can create, like when you're describing you're starting your business, you're creating this way of receiving.
Mhm.
And that's like the opposite, right? Like fear is like it's often like I must do a thing or avoid a thing, not I'll just sit back, I'll, create my business and then my customers, I'll build it and then they'll come to me. Um, and I
And
really,
because of my
really
fear,
love
if I
that.
can just say, I like what you said, like, particularly in the business, you know, everybody dreams to be the business owner. Everybody dreams to have a lot of money. When you listen all these gurus online, like, and I'm just sitting there, I said to myself, it doesn't work that way. I mean, but people buy that I'll not swear here, but they buy that thing.
Yeah.
And when I see all these gurus sell $49.95 per month, I give you blueprint for becoming a millionaire. You know what I admire you, Natasha, for? Because you appear today. You have the podcast. You make it accountable yourself to me that you're gonna be here today. See, that's a guarantee for your clients that you're gonna be give them the best. It's easy to be the theorist and talk about things. I'll give you one example. Once upon a time, we were in a combat and we run into that shop like a 7-Eleven. Anyway, long story short, we have the drinks, everything else. It was a firefight, and comes another group of the soldiers inside. And we start saluting each other, ta 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 ta. We recognize some of each other. And then one of the guys turned, his shoulder insignia. There was enemy soldiers inside in the shop. And we start fighting each other with the knives, with bottles, shooting. I was so afraid. But you know what I did next moment, John? When I come home, I was the biggest hero. Me, man, I kill 500 people. I'm the Rambo, man. Everyone says, really? Yeah. It's like I lied just to cover my fear. So
Mm.
you two guys, Natasha, and you, guarantee for success it is that you guys here today with me. That's I seeing you. I mean, you're here today. You make an appointment, you're here. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's amazing.
You're welcome.
That's so much good advice in that.
Mm.
I do agree with that aspect of receiving that you're both talking about, because I mean, you spoke about that manifesting, and it's all about manifest, like God, do, yes, there needs to be a part of action, but a lot of the times we're not open to receiving. And I think fear also stops us from receiving all that is good in life. And I was feeling into kind of like receiving today. And it's almost like during my meditation, it came through in that it's almost like our breath. We need to
Mm.
be able to breathe, inhale, to be able to, so we need to be able to receive in order to give as well, which I find quite important as well. So it's that exchange that continues to move through as well. And I think that that aspect of, moving past the fear, but being completely authentic in who we are, I think is one of those things that we've started, and like you say, showing up is important. And it's something that's come through in the sense of like, if we're not for everybody anyway. So it's okay. And I tell my daughters this because I have two daughters. And one of the things that I said to them right from the beginning is you don't need to like everybody, and not everybody needs to like you. It's okay, because of bringing in that authenticity into that as well. And looking at business too, I find that not all customers are our ideal customers, not all, and we go into that space of kind of like fear and kind of like, how am I going to make this? I need to be all things for everybody, to be able to suit everybody as well. And sometimes it's like, no, there are other better practitioners. There are other places that are supportive and conducive of, that energy, and that could support people better. But that authenticity in being ourselves completely and showing up, like you say, to what expands us, what brings us joy is really quite important. So where did you end up finding that space of going, okay, I don't have to kill 500 people. I can just be me, and that's okay.
Well, as I say, when I look now back in my life, I turned yesterday 52 years. Today I'm 52 years and 1 day old. So I never believed that I'm gonna live that long in my life. You
Mhm.
know, that's the biggest rubbish I ever had in my life. I live fast, die young, and all this blah blah. I never appreciate my life more than right now.
Mhm.
And no, I mean, no, like last certain years. I truly believe that life gave me the option. You know, he sent me GFC. I lost family. I lost a home. Uh, Everything was just going down to hill. And I make things worse for me. As I said, I took the shovel and started digging even deeper till I didn't realize that I don't see anymore nothing except the darkness. So and then again another additional 30 kilos, I mean, start smoking, start drinking, and like it was a lot of things happening from bad to worse. But that book sort of changed my life because I said to myself, you can't be you can't be happy. Nobody can make me happy if I'm not happy with myself. So I was unhappy seeing myself in the mirror. I was unhappy talking to my son, for which I was believing that I was the biggest loser for him. He told me I'm not, but I perceive myself as a loser because I was supposed to be breadwinner. I mean, I just the business was start unfolding, and it was like you go into the minefield with a flashlight. I mean, and just every softly just hit. And I was determined. I said to myself, I know it's difficult. I know it's hard, but there must be the reason why all of this collapsed on me, right? It just literally collapsed 2009 in February. And I didn't know answers, Natasha, be honest with you. I didn't know even to meditate. I didn't know nothing. That only thing I literally had was to think positive. And uh, the, the, the only tools you need is a pen and paper. What I want from my life. I said to myself, I want to have my business here. I didn't know what I'm gonna run. So I become the PI because I was the closest to my occupation. What would it be? The novelist when English is not my language. So I started being PI. And I don't remember, I was working in Chamber of Commerce and the local Chamber of Commerce, and there was a guy there who was in charge, the El Presidente. I called him and I shake his hand. And first thing what he told me, I need a speech therapist. And I cried. Believe me, Natasha, I was 38 years old. I cried. My ego was so hurt, what I mean? And I said to myself, Mario, I can do better. What I mean? It's okay. And people will hurt you on the path, whatever you heading to. But the only thing I kept myself reminding every day why I'm doing this, what I want from the life. And even today, Natasha, I can say this from bottom of my heart. The license for my business, my friend paid. My first laptop, another friend paid, $700. So I know where I started. I mean, I was leveraging things. But the one thing, it's a faith. I need to have the faith in what I'm doing in myself, because if I don't have the faith in me, nobody else will have. And another thing is, I will add this little ingredient called the honesty. I didn't know how to pitch for the work. So I was going to the people and they say, my name is Mario Bekes. They say, oh, like, okay, tell us more. I say, if you give me the one job, I'll prove to you I'm worthy of you. And they say, like, okay. I say, what if you're not? I say, you can go in public and tell everybody I'm the worst, company on the planet. That was my pitch. And people say, like, nobody speaks that way. So, like, because I have nothing else to offer. I really have nothing to offer except my name. I say, I'm no, literally naked, but metaphorically naked. And that was my first client says to me, if you F this job, I'll tell everybody. I said, deal. I mean? And little by little, now it's 400 people working for me. So it took it a lot of time, many years. And even today, I said to people, like, bigger you are, that's not because of me, but because of people who believe in me. Yeah,
Wow.
positivity. Mm.
I love that. I love that you started with a vision, with a mission, like having something to that you knew you wanted to build and that would bring you that happiness inside of you, like the journey to it. Um, I'll transparently share a couple of uh, my recent fears. So I've spoken a few times in the podcast about my transition from 26 years in software engineering and artificial intelligence to
Mm.
May 31st this year, started my own company doing energy healing and mindfulness meditation and clinical reflexology. I'm also training in massage. That transition took me 2 years to build up the courage and find ways. I felt like I was constantly finding building blocks
Mm,
to overcome the next fear. Like some of my fears were, well, how like my quantum energy healing and the psychic work I do, how many people are really interested in that? How helpful is it to them in my vision to helping, hundreds and thousands and millions of people around the planet? And so I explored things like meditation and reflexology to help connect with people. And just yesterday, a little bit of context is Natasha and I are running an event doing quantum healing, psychic readings, and Akashic Records healings for people um, near where we live in a small town called Haddington. And the one of the challenges I've had with fear is in particular the use of the word psychic. Like I just I found it really hard to describe myself in that way. I think for fear of being ridiculed or persecution, and I know that it's not all just in this lifetime. And there I was yesterday. It was a very sunny day like today, and I was wearing all black because that's what I wear at
mm, mm,
my
mm.
reflexology at the local well-being center. And I was wandering down the streets with these little pamphlets with Natasha and I's face in it, handing them to people and going into shops and saying, "Hey, I'm running this event, this psychic event." And I was inside of me, I was like, "I'm so scared." What's going to happen? And everyone was so lovely. They're like, oh, because a lot of people would say things like, I'm just not into that, but my partner, they love it. I can I can I
Mm.
can you give me a copy too? I'll give it to them. And these were some of the people that since signed up, and I was just I knew as I was walking down the street and I felt that fear. It was like, okay, there's fear for a reason. Some of it's not to be ignored. Like I literally saw myself with these like doors of fear, and I was like walking through them constantly. It's like every time I took a step forwards along the high street, it's like just one more fear, keep going, keep going.
And you're doing well,
And
eh?
sorry,
You're doing well.
thank you. Um, and yeah, I was interested in your advice for people when they're the most scared about things, and because we can be scared of everything, right? As it turns out,
Mm.
just like positivity, fear has, no limitations. What if you were advising, for instance, someone to start their own business or take a big life change? Uh, what would you best advise for them?
You know what? First, I need to just briefly address two things with you because I
Of
didn't
course.
talk about this far. Okay, so
Yeah.
when you said the flies, right?
Hmm.
When I started my business, I said like, how am I gonna promote my inside intelligence one man band?
Hmm.
I have no money, nothing, and there's a lot of these coaches and gurus that are telling you everything. Just spend money with me. It's rubbish. So I come with the brilliant idea. I asked my ex to print the what's it calling the Sherlock Holmes hat and say inside intelligence, put a number, mobile number, and I was taking my son to stick in the cubicles in toilets, females, males, right? And suddenly I have a police on my door, and they say to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Like, how do you know it's me?" The guy says, "Like, it's your number, mobile number." It's like, yeah. And what happened actually? I have the shopping center manager call me, says to me, "Look, if you come with some nice design, we're gonna put in every cubicle, behind, in a plastic frame. So when people doing, the toilet, they can see it. They need a part investigator." So John and
Wow.
Natasha, you done it something. It's easy to critique people. It's easy to judge people. Go on a microscope. That's the reason why, life has its spectators and those 9 to 5 who love that comfortable, position and judge everybody and anybody. And there is a people who challenge the life, like yourself and Natasha. And as I said, like every time when I see people like this, I am admiring them. So, like, guys, you truly surprised me very well. In 2014, I experienced some health issues, and I was being suggested by my GP to see alternatives. It's like, what do you mean alternatives? What does that mean? He give me some pills. Like, Marina, I think it's some supernatural things around you. It's like whatever, curse, whatever. I say, come on. Anyway, I end up with a lady who is doing exactly what you're doing, John. Even today, I see her. She's like my mother, 70s old lady called Sabrina. She's a healer. And I think today I'm feeling better because of her. You know what I mean? So it wasn't just me thinking positively, but I needed somebody to put me in that direction. Don't sway, don't do this, don't do that. You know, I mean, Akasha record. So, guys, unbelievable how we come to that conversation. Then on your question, if somebody asks me what to do with fear, you need to face the fears. Nobody else gonna face the fears for you. I expect in my life people gonna have the magic wand and gonna fix things for me. Nobody does this. But satisfaction when you face that fear, you know, you accomplish things what most of people can dream about. So I say like the one advice it is you need to face the fears. Nobody else will do it for you. If you don't face it, somebody else gonna be better than you. So like doesn't matter what you do in your life, you can expect you're gonna have a critiques, people are gonna look at you differently, they're gonna judge you, they're gonna say things. But that's you owe nobody apology as long as it's above the board. I always say to my son, you owe nobody apology. You know what I mean? You're not a jar of Nutella. You can't make everybody happy, dude. And he says to me, Dad, I said, so what do you want? What do you want? Everybody make happy? And then how are you going to be happy? So I always say to this, if you want to do something, do it as long as it's legal, above the board. Face to face, solutions going to appear. Maybe not right now, not right this very moment, Natasha says, but path will unfold. Face to face, it's there for you for the reason.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, face the fear and do it anyway. And it's quite interesting because a lot of my clients that I work with, a lot of the message that comes from the Akashic records is actually if you're not in the space of a little bit of uncomfortable and pushing yourself out of your boundary, you're not thinking enough. It's like push yourself into a little bit of the uncomfortable to help you move forward in that way. So yeah, get used to being uncomfortable is the other thing, which is part of facing the fear as well. So just talking on podcasts and talking in front of people, that was a big fear of mine as well. Just even in boardrooms and stuff, I'd get all and eventually the more you do it, the better it becomes, I think. So it's everything's hard in the beginning and then moving forward. But like John as well, like I do a lot of things and people are like, oh, you're psychic. And I'm like, I'm not psychic. I might be intuitive. We're all intuitive, but it's embracing that aspect of perhaps maybe I am psychic, but everybody's psychic. But working through that intuitive aspect of facing that fear and doing it anyway. And it's like I say, I'm embracing the crazy and shining that light, and who's attracted to it is attracted to it, are the right people. I've started to become comfortable with that.
I'm glad I'm talking to you guys. Seriously. I mean, the world needs people like you. I'm telling you, it's easy to destroy. It's easy to make people unhappy. It's easy to put a tears in somebody's eyes. I'm the great. I tell you one thing from my experience. I know men. And most of the guys I used to be watching and admiring, big and rough, tough guys, will come pick them up 3 o'clock in the morning from their beds and put them into the not such a comfortable vehicle. They will cry. I said, why cry, man? Aren't you a big name there? Why are you afraid? What are you afraid? Like people go like my son, I say, like, if you don't have, if when he was going to the hospital and we had a brain surgery, a doctor says it's a 50-50, but one thing is going to happen, he's going to lose the hearing and the eyesight for a couple months because of the surgery. And I said, like, wow, man, just going from bad to worse, when it comes to health. And then we need, as a humans, we need a people like you, John, you, Natasha, to show us the path. You know what I mean? That's the reason why you exist. We can't all pretend we are big and fearless and we are this and that. We need people like two of you. I'm saying this from my experience. I was the biggest arrogant prick on this planet. I enjoyed doing things. I'm not proud, but then life hits you. You know what I mean? Not once, few times, and then you realize that life is not about being negative guy, but to learn how to be positive and build positive environment. So two of you, I admire you. I seriously admire you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's so kind. Um, and reminds us why it's all worthwhile coming together and meeting wonderful people like you and yeah,
Thank you.
sharing
Appreciate
our
it.
journeys transparently. I would like to if you'd like to join us, Mario, to do a short mindful meditation on the very things that you've been
Sure.
discussing today.
Yeah.
And before I do, because once I do, you'll probably feel quite sleepy,
Yeah.
especially with my voice. Um, I wanted to check how can people best connect with you and your great work.
Or your podcast, you're gonna put a link there, guys. So here,
Yep,
so mariobekes.com.au, but feel free, give the love to Natasha and John on their podcast, and my details are gonna be there. Here.
fabulous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Brilliant. Well, let's get started with our meditation. So if you'd like to join me now, and you can choose to close your eyes or soften your gaze, and join me in taking 3 deep breaths in through the nose, nice and deep, and breathe out any low vibration energy or emotion nice and loud. Breathe in through the nose, nice and deep, and breathe out any fear, stress, or anxiety or shame at this time, nice and loud. And once more, breathe in through the nose, nice and deep. And breathe out any remaining negativity or low vibration energy, nice and loud. And continue to breathe deeply and calmly. And I'd like to invite you to reconnect with your whole body at this time. And if you choose, you can place one of your hands on your heart and just ask yourself, body, how are you feeling right now? And allow your body to answer. Bringing that awareness to your breath, to your chest, and the awareness to the breath. Are you feeling in any way stressed or anxious where your lung capacity is and your breath is shortened? Or are you now relaxing and allowing your lungs, your chest to breathe in and to receive more of this wonderful oxygen and energy from around you? And if you're to remember one thing from this meditation today, is to know that there is infinite abundance of this beautiful air and this love energy that flows around this planet for you to always receive into your chest and into your body. And now I'd like you to imagine in front of you just now 3 doors. And you can picture these 3 doors wherever you wish. They could be in nature or they could be in a room. You choose your background and context. These 3 doors that you see in front of you are closed. And the door to your left is your highest vibration, your happiest life. It is your dream life. It is your highest timeline. And although the door is closed, there's beautiful light and sound and energy flowing through the cracks around the edge of the door. And if you listen quietly for a moment, you can hear there's a version of you through that door, and it's calling you, it's calling your name. And to know that this always exists for you, that all the things that you ever wish for in your life and more exists for you, and there's a version of you experiencing this right now. And to get there, to be able to open that door, there's two other doors to address first. The door in the middle of the three is the current door. If you were to walk through right now, you would simply step outside into the current version of you right now. And this is the baseline. It's where you are right now in your happiness, your joy, your self-love, your frequency. And then to the right is your lowest vibration door. It is the door of your greatest fears, your greatest shadows, your lowest vibrations. And each of these doors are closed right now. But I'd like you to bring awareness to, in particular, this door on your right of your lowest vibration, of your greatest fears, because there's healing behind that door. And although the door is closed and it feels so fearful because it represents some of the biggest challenges that you face in your life, to know that all's this version of you that exists behind that door asks is that you're aware of your fear, and that when you're ready, one day, whether that moment is now or sometime in the future, that you will walk to that door, that you will open it. And when you step through that fear, you will find those shadows, those festering parts of you, those fears, that shame. And when you take that brave action, you'll find that those fears were only ever amplified by you. And whilst they're valid and they're true and they're real, the hardest thing was opening the door. And then when you step through it, this very door leads you to a path, one step closer towards your dream life, one step closer to your healing and your abundance and all the things you seek. And if you choose to join me right now, for a moment, you could walk through that door with me. Each of us have our own doors. And I'm walking up to my door on the right of my greatest fears. I'm seeing all the things that scare me the most. And I'm opening up this door anyway. And I'm stepping through. And on the other side is a journey of healing, a journey of witnessing myself, the full spectrum from my lowest vibration and negativity to my highest happiness. And as I send love to myself behind this door, I can step out once more, step through, and realize that what lies behind this lowest vibration door of fear for me is my highest timeline, my highest dream life, my happiest joy. And in this way, these three doors were never separate. They're always the same, just a sequence for us to step through our fear once more, each day a little bit further, even if we're just seeing that door of fear and reflecting on when we're ready, when we have the courage and we have the strength to step through it, we will. And to trust and to know and to love ourselves enough that we're always more than enough and that we're always doing our best. And the more we face these fears of ours, the happier we become in each and every single present moment. And so I leave you with these three doors and this practice to repeat as often as you wish, and to know that fear helps us see the things that we need to be cautious of and careful of on our journeys to all the things we believe we need in our lives. And it brings us back to our bodies and back to our hearts, back to our breath, and know that you have nothing to fear, only the fear inside of you that needs the bravery of healing. And when you're ready, come back to this moment. You can open your eyes, just move your body,
You.
or wake up if I've
Man,
sent you to sleep.
where's my blanket? Honestly, that was a good one actually.
Thank you.
Honestly, oh my god, like I was expecting third door, but thank you, John. Thank you, John. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you so much for today having me on your podcast, and looking forward, speaking to you very soon, guys. So appreciate very
Absolutely.
much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mario, and best of luck with your business and your life ahead of you and your
Wish you
family. And thank you so much for your kind words. It's really greatly appreciated and received. And I'm sure it'll give Natasha and I a lot to reflect on. So thank you so much. And I'll end our podcast just there. Thank you so much, everyone. Take
thank
care.
you.